Gary had always thought of himself as a city guy, who thrived in the chaos of crowded coffee shops, dodging pigeons on busy sidewalks, and riding the subway like a pro. So when his friend Dave invited him for a weekend getaway to his family's countryside cabin, Gary hesitated. "Come on, man," Dave pleaded. "It'll be fun. Fresh air, peace and quiet. You need a break from honking cars and overpriced lattes." Gary eventually agreed, but not without a sense of impending doom. The cabin was quaint and picturesque, nestled by a serene lake. The first night passed uneventfully, with campfire stories and too many marshmallows. Gary was beginning to think maybe the countryside wasn't so bad after all. That all changed the next morning. As Gary sipped his coffee on the porch, a loud honk pierced the air. He turned to see a large, overly confident goose waddling toward him like it owned the place. "Relax," Dave said, noticing Gary's wide-eyed look. "That's just Gerald. He's harmless." Harmless, Gary thought. The goose's beady eyes and smug demeanor screamed anything but harmless. Gary decided to keep his distance. Gerald, however, had other plans. The moment Gary stepped off the porch, Gerald honked aggressively and charged, wings spread wide like an avian freight train. Gary yelped and ran back inside, slamming the door behind him. "Dude, you're being dramatic," Dave said between laughs. "Dramatic?" Gary pointed to the window, where Gerald was now pacing back and forth, like a prison warden inspecting his territory. "That bird is out for blood." The rest of the day became a game of cat and mouse, or more accurately, goose and human. Gerald seemed to have a personal vendetta against Gary. If Gary tried to go to the lake, Gerald appeared from nowhere, honking furiously. When Gary attempted to enjoy lunch on the porch, Gerald stared him down.
Got that on video.
By late afternoon, Gary had had enough. "That's it," donning a pair of Dave's oversized rain boots and arming himself with a broom. "I'm reclaiming my weekend."
So the kids
Dave
are
watched from the
doing
safety of the cabin as Gary marched
food
outside,
coloring
ready
and
for battle.
celery
"Listen here, Gerald," Gary
a
said,
science
pointing the broom at
project.
the goose.
Hey, Barely.
"This is my vacation too, and I won't let some
What do
overgrown
you
pigeon
think
ruin
of
it."
their
Gerald,
science
unimpressed,
project?
honked loudly and charged. Gary swung the broom,
Wow, sit.
but Gerald
Show
ducked
me
with the
your
agility
mouth.
of a seasoned fighter.
Oh, it's
What
just so
ensued was a
funny.
chaotic dance of flailing limbs and furious honks. At one point,
Jan, there's
Gary
a
tripped
speed
over the
bump
rain
right
boots
here.
and fell
Yeah, I got
backward
him.
into a bush,
Right.
while Gerald stood triumphantly on his chest. Gary shouted, but Dave was too busy recording the spectacle on his phone. Eventually, Gary managed to crawl back into the cabin, panting and covered in leaves. "You okay, buddy?" Dave asked, barely containing his laughter. Gary glared at him. That bird is pure evil. That night, Gary hatched a plan. If Gerald wanted to act like a villain, Gary would play the hero. Armed with a loaf of bread, he crept out to the porch under the cover of darkness. "Here, Gerald," he whispered, tossing a piece of bread toward the lake. The goose, curious but cautious, waddled over to investigate.
You all right,
Gary
Grandma?
continued tossing bread until Gerald was far enough away for Gary to feel safe. "Victory," Gary whispered to himself as he dashed back inside. The next morning, Gary woke up feeling triumphant. He stepped outside confidently, ready to enjoy a peaceful day. But Gerald had other plans. The goose was waiting by the porch, flanked by two equally menacing companions. It seemed Gerald had recruited reinforcements. Gary didn't even bother running this time. He simply turned around, walked back inside, and declared, "I'm never leaving the city again." Dave laughed so hard he nearly fell off his chair. "Don't worry," he said, patting Gary on the back. "Next time, we'll just go camping in the backyard." And that's how Gary learned that sometimes the simplest of creatures can become your greatest nemesis.